So, okay. Hello there. So we are live streaming in the group to everybody. Hello, Jess, Tilly, and your fun Disney ears. Oh, here, somebody, Mike's coming in. So let me start. I'll be letting people in, but I am so excited. I was kind of sad that you aren't still at Disney. That would have been really fun if you were actually live from Disney World, but that's okay. Having you fresh off of Disney is great. So, hi, Mike.
Hi, everyone.
So,
Hi.
okay, so what we're gonna do, because I've just jumped in and I'll try to, I don't know, did you, Jess, I made you co-host this time, and so I don't know, did it show you that he was in the waiting room this time?
It didn't show me he was in the waiting
Okay.
room, and I can see it in the group. Only thing is, I cannot see comments in the group. So,
Oh, really? Hmm.
yes.
I think if you go to the feed and find it there instead of in the event, you'll be able to see the comments.
And I can
That's how I
see.
usually do it. That's how I have been able to do it. But meanwhile, while we're waiting and to see if anybody else wants to join us, not that you are not enough, Mike. I'd love to chat with you, but I wanted to do this fun little thing because I didn't have a chance to do it this morning. I kind of forgot. But my friend Shannon Kinney Do made these beautiful cards that I just got in the mail on Monday. And I have been loving them. So I've been pulling a card every morning for myself. So now I'm going to pull a card for all of us instead. So it's mine and it's yours. And it's funny because the 2 days that I pulled it, I got the same card.
Oh,
And I was really good about mixing it up. And that's happened to me before. Like I remember one time I had a new deck and I kept pulling and pulling. And literally over the course of 3 weeks, I only pulled 5 different cards. I kept pulling the same cards. I was like, holy cow.
are
Okay,
you getting the message yet?
so perfect. This is so perfect for what we're doing, for everything. Do you see it? So first of all, it's beautiful. And the message says, I welcome kindred spirits into my life. Together we amplify our light. So
Yay.
that's again a great, because if you don't know, I love to say shine your light, right? So anyway, that feels like really good message. Let me see if there is anything that we want to, there's a little bit more message here. And it says, it's the message is connection. I am deeply grateful for the kindred spirits who walk alongside me. These connections nourish my soul and enhance my sense of belonging. As I evolve, so do my relationships, and I welcome new bonds that reflect my growth. Embracing closeness with like-hearted individuals fills my journey with joy and meaning. I recognize the value I bring to others and to the world. Each connection enriches not only my path, but also the collective journey we all share.
Mm.
And then it asks, who are the kindred spirits in your life and what makes these connections special? Write about the qualities you seek in new connections or a community. How can you cultivate them?
I
That seems to
love
be really
that.
fitting to what we're doing here today. And yeah, I don't know if that resonated with you, but it made me very happy.
Oh, yeah.
Ah,
That's been my whole week. I've connected with over 150 people. It's all been
Yeah.
about connections and community. Yes, I love it.
ah.
Yeah. How are you connecting with all those people? Can I ask? Quick.
A friend of mine, Michelle Costa, she's a connector and she's
Oh
just,
yeah.
you need to have a chat with this person, with this person, with this person.
Yeah, she's awesome. She's the networking queen. I don't know if you know who that is, Jessica. Jess.
No, I
Yeah,
don't.
I'm looking at your name and I always called you Jessica and I've never called you Jessica. It was just like, because Zoom has you as Jessica. And then I started to say it. I was like, what?
Who's this
Oh,
Jessica person?
who's Jessica? Right?
Who's that?
Anyway, so I'm glad you're here, Mike. I hope you are certainly plenty enough, but I would love anybody else who wants to come join us because I really am hoping this is going to be a way for us to connect a little bit more in real life than just our little blind comments with each other in the group. And so I hope that most of you by now have had a chance to meet Jess, and she's now an admin in the group, and she also was a guest on my podcast. And I just love that she's in her whole Disney motif because I totally think Jess is like the combination of like almost all of the Disney princesses. So this feels very aligned for her to have her Disney thing going on.
Love
Yeah,
the
I
ears. That's
love that.
totally cool.
Oh, the Disney. Yeah. So for anyone who doesn't know, you're like, what are you doing? I was actually just at Disney. We got home about 30 minutes ago and I had this grand plan. I was like, okay, I can wear one of my princess outfits like at Disney and we can do this transit talk. But life had other plans. So
And that is how it works, right? We got to go with the flow. So anyway, so we're going to talk about transits a little bit. And I put the new transit post in the group last night. I have noticed that it's the algorithms have been not showing it to everybody lately. So, if you haven't seen it, that's there. And then the blog post is actually different. So if you're interested in looking at my blog post, I do write about how I'm feeling about the transits. And the main transit focus, every time I do it when the transit changes and that the sun transit changes, because that's 70% of the neutrino stream. So that's when we decided we would time these transit talks. But we certainly can talk about any of the energy that at play that's going on right now. And right now, there is a lot of energy with the collective emotional wave that's being felt by all of us in both of those things. So anyway, did you
cool
want
though,
to say,
because
you want to get us started, Jess?
yeah, so I just wanted to point out that's so cool because the card you just pulled was about the collective, right? And that's the
Oh,
energy
yeah.
that like we're moving into, which is so cool. Rebecca Hansen on Facebook said these are so much fun. And so I told her,
Okay.
feel free to come in, jump in here, join us, chat, in the Zoom room or chat here, and I can reiterate what she's saying as
Yeah,
well. So
she's so knowledgeable. She's like this genius astrologer. I love her to death.
yeah.
But I also noticed Carrie's here on Zoom with us, and Carrie said she can't be on camera. But feel free, Carrie, to just put your comments in the chat. We'll try to pay attention to them here as well, so that we can all be chatting about what's going on. So I'm wondering, before we get into the energy of this transit shift, how does everybody feel about the full moon energy that happened right before we moved into this energy? Did you guys feel that? Did it feel
It was
like
very,
yeah,
yeah, I had a lot of clients come to me like, what the heck is going on? My emotions are so intense right now. I'm like, yeah, because the moon's amplifying them.
yeah, yeah,
We ended up doing a meditation around that actually that helped us to reconnect with our inner authority. Using
mm,
that time to, because the moon, when the moon comes, I study a lot of esoteric magical concepts. When that energy comes, it's a very good time for inner work, and there's
yeah.
nothing better than connecting with that inner authority.
Oh yeah, Mike, tell Jess and everybody else what you do.
Oh,
Keep in mind.
no, I use human design to break down our copy and our structures for our audience. It's very fascinating. So if you look at your moon signs, the moon plays out energetically in the theme behind us. And those two signs, the points, make up our ideal audience's profile. So
I
mine,
didn't even know this part, Mike. This isn't what I was thinking, but this is very cool.
yeah,
You're
I just
clearly,
actually discovered this myself. So I'm a generator 1-3. I
Mhm.
love research and discoveries. But
I was
I've
thinking of your
implemented,
paranormal stuff.
I do that too. That's one of the things that led me into this because every case that I went on as a paranormal, I've been a paranormal investigator for over 30 years. If you guys want to see some pictures of ghosts, hit me up later and I'll send you the links. But the stories, it was always a client's story, whether it was doing a paranormal or working with clients. The people in the paranormal, they were afraid of sharing their stories because they didn't want to sound like they were crazy.
Yeah,
As we got people to open up and share those stories, their experiences lessened and they didn't live in fear anymore.
that's a great lesson. Yeah, the more we don't hide our heart, hide our light, the more,
More it shines.
right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Shine
Yeah,
your light through all parts of you, right?
right. Again, that's our card, right?
I love
Let me
it.
put
Oh,
it
I
in my little, and also this deck, I'm totally selling this deck for her because I love it. It came with this little stand. So when you pull your card, you just put it in there and then it'll stand up for you. So I'm going to put it right,
Ooh. Oh, I
Do
like that
that.
to remind
Yeah.
you, connect
right?
in with
So you
it.
can keep
Yeah.
it, right?
Mm.
Yeah. So anyway.
Yeah, so I've definitely been feeling the full moon. For me, I like to do a releasing ceremony. Like, what is it that's coming up? What are the things that I'm like ready to release? So it was almost like an amplification for me, especially having the solar plexus currently defined. So that's bringing up all the emotions and all the things that are ready to be processed through. And I'm like, okay, okay, I hear you. Okay, I'm seeing it. And the story's coming through very strong. And it's like, okay, I feel it. I know it. This is the point where it's uncomfortable enough to change, right? So, yeah.
Yeah. I think my dog was feeling it last night. I got very little sleep because she was just like this, but she's almost 14 and she's definitely feeling energies and shifts and all kinds of stuff. So yeah, she didn't want me to sleep. But the full moon here was actually at like 6 a.m. So we were already moved out of the gate 4 energy and we'd moved through gate 29. I think by the time I went to bed, it was probably still in gate 59,
Mhm.
which I mentioned because, the moon changes so many gates several times a day. But that gave us, another emotional activation because it connected with that gate 6 that we have for the nodes right now are the 36 and 6. So
Mhm.
both of those were now connecting to form emotional waves. So last night when we went to bed, it was like a lot of emotional energy. And I don't know, my dog is a reflector. So who knows? She might have been amplifying everything in the collective. Or maybe she was just amplifying me. That can be it too. So anyway.
Yeah.
Um, so
Carrie said she slept super hard last night. I
did,
love that for you,
did
Carrie.
you?
Oh, I love that. You're like
During the
ready
day,
to
I was
release.
so tired too. So yeah, I wish I'd slept really
Work
hard.
too.
The whole day I was just like, and I had just like jinxed myself because, oh, I did. I put a thing, I don't know if anybody saw on my Facebook feed, I put this thing where I asked ChatGPT to roast me. And so it did this really funny thing. And one of the last things is it made some comment about unless I need a 3 hour nap. And it's funny because although I love to sleep in and like lounge around and go back to sleep and not really get up and that sort of thing in the morning, I never nap. I mean, I have to be dead tired to nap. Like maybe twice a year I take a nap.
Mm.
And so I was kind of like, oh, I'm never tired in the afternoon. I'm always raring to go. And then yesterday I was like, oh, but I didn't nap. Anyway.
Oh, that's so
So
interesting you bring that up because I napped yesterday, but it was like a forced nap because we went to go have dinner in the Magic Kingdom in Cinderella's castle. And because our reservation was at 10 o'clock at night, so the kids had to sleep. So I have a 5-year-old and an 8-year-old for anybody who doesn't know. So for us to go there at 10 o'clock at night, obviously we needed like a family nap, right? And so it was a forced nap, but I actually did. I slept really, really hard. And I attributed that to like, oh, walking around Disney, you're busy, like the sun, right? But now I'm thinking, oh, okay.
yeah, so what in the afternoon, I think we were in the gate 29 energy with the moon, which is all about commitments, the gate of saying yes, but it's also the inverse, the gate of saying no, right? So
Mhm.
um, yeah, really listening to your body and what you need. So that's interesting. So then yesterday around 6 o'clock was also when we had this shift to the new sun transit with gate 30 and then the earth in gate 29. And so, gate 30 is the gate of the clinging fire. It's sometimes it's passion and desire, right? It's all this, right? And so, but being grounded in what are we saying yes to? Where do our commitments lie? And are we committing to the right things, right? So I'm wondering how that are you guys feeling that kind of energy coming up for you yet? What is that feeling like?
I just got off a sales call with a potential prospect for my high ticket course. And normally asking and talking about money in general is always triggering for me.
Hmm.
Today it felt effortless though. It was easy
Yeah.
and it was fun. Like it wasn't work. And I learned an incredible amount of things about AI that he is using too, which to me that just makes life so much simpler because I use AI to break down charts.
Yeah.
It's very fun.
Interesting. Okay. Fun. So are you, I know you said you're a 1-3 generator, but are you emotional or sacral?
Sacral.
Okay.
I think we're
Okay.
all emotional right now
Right now,
because,
that's why I was
yeah,
wondering. Yeah,
we've got the 30 and the harmonic gate, the 41, I believe is in Pluto, right? Transformation. So I think across the board, everyone's feeling.
and we all have the 35, 36 right now.
Oh, yeah. And the 35,
So
30.
that's what,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't mean to talk over you, sorry. But because, so now we all have that full channel that starts with that root pressure pulse from Pluto in gate 41, and then leads up into this gate 30, gate of desire. You know, so fantasy, what are we imagining? What's the vision going into the desires? What do we desire? Then going through the solar plexus up into gate 36, which is defined right now by the North Node, and is, you know, really looking for the emotional experience, right? And then gate 35 is defined right now by Jupiter,
Jupiter.
which Jupiter expands everything it touches, right? So this collective emotional wave,
Mhm.
although we call it a collective wave, we are the collective, right? And so like in my blog post, when I was writing about this, I was thinking on it, it's like, all this collective energy we're talking about, you know, remember that we are the one, right? It's us, that we are the collective, right? And
Yeah.
you know, and so what are we feeling? What are we amplifying? Especially those of us who don't normally have, like I don't have any of those energies defined in my chart. So even though I am emotionally emotionally defined, my emotional wave is an individual emotional wave that's a split, and it does not connect to any other parts. It's just those, the root and the solar plexus through the 3955, and it's by itself and it needs other people to connect. But right now, I'm feeling all of this collective energy running through me, and it's all about what am I expecting? What do I want? What am I willing to accept? But really, how can I hold this energy of something I imagine in a way that gives it enough space to be what it is meant to be or wants to be, instead of me limiting it with my expectations, my desires, keeping it small, right? Really allowing the fullness of whatever it's going to be. And so sitting with that energy has been very expansive for me.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And it's so interesting to notice with the 30 for me. So just for anybody who's not aware, the 30 is in the solar plexus, um, which is about emotions, and the emotions move in the wave. You have the highs and the low, and it's not good or bad. It's just the way in which the energy moves. And then this specific one is a collective wave. So you have the individual, the tribal, and the collective. This is the collective wave. So this is my youngest's sun sign, and watching her navigate just everything that happened and feeling her feelings. So 30 is about like the recognition of feelings, right? Deeply connecting into those feelings and like what are the desires and moving through those. And so just to share the story, so last night, late at night, we were at Cinderella's castle and we came out and the girls were so excited. They were running around. They got little play swords and they were play fighting. And Savannah turned around to run away from Lily, and she ran right into a banister on her lip. And so she hit her lip in the top of like her gum. And so it got all like fat and it got started bleeding, and she got upset and she like recognized her feelings and she felt her feelings. But it was very interesting to witness how quickly she moved through it, and almost like this piece of like surrendering to the experience and surrendering to what happened. Whereas I think I clung to, in my mind, more of the way I had the desire to go and eat there. I had this experience in my mind. I had, connecting again with the harmonic gate, that 41, the fantasy in my mind of how this would play out. But part of that 30 energy is that surrender piece, that piece where you come to the humanness of, yes, they're having so much fun. Yes, they had a great dinner, all these wonderful things. But yes, they're also kids. And yes, they also get hurt. And you are human. And if you run into a banister, you're going to bleed, right? So surrendering to that and going, letting go of that outcome, which was very interesting again, because when you're little, I feel like you're so much more in tune with the way that your energy just naturally moves. Versus for me, I had to go, okay, let me come back in center. Let me come back and go, it's okay to move through this in this way. And she just did it in such a beautiful, like almost effortless way. while recognizing her feelings. So that was really, really cool to see because I was like, hold on, what are we in? What are we in right now? And I was like, of course, it's your sun sign. This is like the energy you carry, right?
So when's your birthday?
February 16th.
Ah, okay. Yeah,
Awesome.
awesome.
Yeah.
So, I was just noticing now the moon is in gate 40.
Hmm.
So it's yeah,
Yeah, I saw aloneness. I was like, of course it's aloneness, right? Well, we're like
right?
collective connecting, and it's like the moon is like alone. My
Right?
moon's Scorpio, so it's always been the opposite.
Your moon is Scorpio?
I'm Scorpio. It's yeah, one.
Yeah. Remind me your sun sign?
I'm my son is, oh my gosh, why is my brain 19?
No, but what's your sun sign?
Oh, sign
So
Aquarius.
that's Aquarius. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because you just had a birthday. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So now that's right. I think we've talked about this because I am Scorpio sun and Aquarius moon.
Yeah.
So we're opposites. And
Yeah.
those are such opposites, right? Our signs are like the
Hmm.
Scorpio and the Aquarius are like so opposite in how they operate and
Yeah.
stuff. So, um, Mike, what's your sun sign, Mike?
I'm a Sagittarius.
Ah, okay. And I don't know if anybody else wants to throw theirs out there. I know Carrie's in the chat here. I don't know if anybody else is still watching. Is Rebecca still there? On but I don't want to leave people out, so I want to make sure people feel open to joining in the chat. So so as I've been writing these blogs, I've been really reflecting on how these energies of the transits really just so deeply coincide with what you hear out there, right? Like it's so funny when you do something like really sit there and look at all the transits in one setting and write something out, and then you open up, your Facebook feed or whatever, you go on a Zoom call and people start talking, you're like, oh my God, everybody is talking about exactly what I, we just looked at in the energy, because it really does. Um, it's hitting all of us with this same energy. So and the purpose for me in diving into transits, because some people are just like, I don't, why do I want to talk about the transits? Why should I care? Because I'm just following my strategy and authority. And that's great. That's, if that's what you want to do. But sometimes it's really cool to understand the curriculum that you're doing it all in, right? So, because I do believe that there is a curriculum of sort, for lack of a better word, of the universe that's saying, okay, you guys are all, I'm going to help you evolve by getting you to all do these things. And so, but when we think that those are things we're supposed to just blindly do, that's when you know, we still need to know and trust ourselves when we do it, right?
Hmm.
So,
Yeah. So Mike said the transits confuse me sometimes. Just for like a mental picture of it, the way I sometimes like to think of it is that your defined centers, or your defined, if you just have gates, if you're a reflector, these are the areas, this is your home. These are the pillars in your house, right? And then the openness is what you get to experience coming through you. It's not you. You're still you, but you're experiencing it. It's passing through you. And then you get to go, that was great, or that wasn't so great. And just the awareness of what's happening, but it's never you, but you are interacting with it. If that helps at all.
I'd
Yeah.
like to add a little nuance to that too, because I believe that where we have openness, we have complete variability. We have the potential to experience that energy in all shapes and forms. Whereas where we have definition, we don't necessarily notice the variability that when something comes in, like, my conscious sun is 14.6. So, when the transit from the moon is in 14.2, I'll feel it, but it's not going to be the same kind of impact, right? Because I already have it defined. It's not, so it's never going to change the way I experience the 14 permanently. Whereas when we feel all these different energies from the transits, from people around us, we take it in and hopefully, like Jess says, we let it pass through us. But in a lot of cases, it feels so some kind of way that what do I do with this? What do I do with it? Almost in a way that in amplifying it, we hold on to it, right? So if we can see where this is coming from and that this too shall pass, because we can clearly see the movie, right? So we can let that go. But in the process of feeling that, we become so wise about that energy because then we can say, oh, when I'm around so and so that has this kind of energy, I feel this sort of way. And we get great wisdom. And so I was just on a really great call with a business strategist, Vicki Dixon. I don't know if either of you know her, but she was talking about how in our openness is where we are here to really teach from. And Ra, always said that where we have completely open centers is where we're here to get our PhD in life. Well, if you think about it, a PhD is really hard to get. So there's a lot of struggle in getting it. But once you have it, you're pretty wise about that energy. So these open centers and undefined centers, we're gaining all this wisdom. And then we have this wisdom later in life. But early in our life, it's often where we're told in some way, shape, or form, whether in words or deeds, we're told we're not enough. There's something missing in us. We feel inadequate. And so we keep trying to hold on to that energy when it comes through in a way that is really not us. Just like in our defined centers, we're often said, settle down, you're a little too much. That's, yeah, Kathy, that 1/8 of yours, we don't want your contribution. We don't want to hear what you have to say, right? And so that's why I've kind of reclaimed the moniker of Chatty Cathy because it was not said nicely necessarily when I was a kid. So, yeah. So I don't know if does that bring
Absolutely.
up
Thank you
any
both.
other any
Uh,
questions for clarity on that, Mike?
No, just not any question. I realize now it's more like when the transits hit is just being the channel and the conduit for that energy to flow through versus holding on to it. Especially
Yes.
anyone that's got an undefined spleen that's going to be apt to hold on to things,
Yeah,
which are
absolutely.
both of my kids. So that makes total sense. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, awesome. So your kids have all this ability to amplify all that splenic awareness and be really in tune with all that is so that's really great gifts that they have there, but they can also be fearful and, like you said, afraid to let go of things or just, what they feel can be so intense they can push it away. And then they have to spend later in life to reclaim those gifts, right?
Work through that deconditioning because that energy got stuck there.
Right, exactly. So,
That's super cool.
And that's interesting. You just said that. And so the fear of 30, which we're experiencing right now, is you're afraid that something fatal will prevent what you have planned from coming true. Afraid of not having control over it. Afraid of fate or a predetermined outcome. So it's interesting to address the fears that come with the solar plexus with the 30. Hmm.
Yes.
yeah, I don't know if people talk about that a lot in just general circles. I know when people go really deep, they'll get it, but all we think of the solar plexus strictly about being feelings, but as an awareness center, there's a fear associated with each of the gates as well. And yeah, there's this fear of this nervousness that, come up in those things. So we think about people being fearful when they have something to do with their spleen, but a lot of it can come in the sense of there's fears in the ajna as well. So I'm just thinking that because I have my little book that talks about the many faces of fear.
Yes. Yes.
That's
Addressing that.
interesting.
Yeah.
From a shamanic perspective, I was taught that each center holds different fears and challenges. And once you work through them, you access the gift, which really Gene Key plays that out beautifully.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, absolutely. So, okay.
I love that. Coming back real quick to you brought up the moon. And so just looking at the moon real quick, it's kind of interesting to see how this is playing out with the 40 right now. And that's that piece of balancing, balancing the work and the rest,
Yeah. And
which again with grounding, because right now the earth is in 29, which you said before is saying yes. And so then the moon's coming and saying, well, let's find this balance to all of this, right? Where we're feeling in our grounding energy, this piece where it's almost sometimes hard to say no. So really coming back to that, your strategy and authority when you're making those decisions to move forward, because just because you have that energy, the 29 gives you that almost that piece of tenacity, right? We're feeling that tenacious energy where we can push through, like we have that power to commit and do something. So the awareness of that as well, because that's on the sacral, moving towards the G center, the direction, the self-love. So that life force energy that we're feeling right now as the grounding. So just that awareness as well, moving through that,
Yeah, and the gate of commitment is also about no, right? Because you can't
Mhm.
say yes to one thing without saying no to something else. If I say yes to going out to dinner, I'm saying no to staying home and relaxing, right? So there's always that whole thing. So it's really this energy of what are we committing to? And right now we're still finishing up the first line of that, right? As we go through the transit, we'll go through all 6 lines, and that will like create a layering on of how we look at this energy. And so, yeah, and that 29 is where the earth is activating right now. And so that's really what's meant to ground us. So as we're focusing on and feeling these desires, what are we willing to commit to? What are we willing to say yes to? And by extension, what are we willing to say no to?
Mhm.
And I know I am already feeling, other people talking about, that whole idea of like, just what am I committing to? What am I, where am I giving away my desires for other people's, right? And that's been a big thing that I see coming through my circles through this last year or so. And it could be just that so many people my age or in my stage in life, because I'm actually probably older than a lot of my friends, because you tend to wind up having circles that came from the age of your kids, right? So I had my daughter when I was 36, so I'm a little older than some of the other people that I'm seeing experiencing this whole thing of like, okay, what do I want now? That whole empty nest thing that
Mhm.
starts to happen. I hate it being called the empty nest, right? Because that just sounds, it's not empty, you're still there, right? It's like, and I always say one of these days I'm going to come up with a better name for it, something that's a little bit more joyful, right?
Open,
The
openness,
freebird stage instead
right?
of the empty nest, freebird stage.
Yeah. Or
So,
the openness, just
Love that.
open to new experiences. Um,
Yeah.
okay, Mike's got to run. It was so good to see you, Mike.
Good to see you
yeah, it
guys.
was great to have you here with us. So, um, talk to you later.
Thanks, guys. And I
Bye.
can't wait to check the replay out. Bye.
Yeah,
Awesome. Yeah.
absolutely. So
Yeah. Hopefully
maybe,
see you next week. So,
yeah.
okay.
Did you want to maybe look at potentially some questions to help people like reflect, looking through, or did you have something else you were going to say?
No, I was about to look at something and I already forgot what it was. But yeah, if you have some reflection questions near you, otherwise I have I didn't bring my one book in here that I have some questions written down. I have some that were in my blog that I put in my blog post. If
Okay.
any if you
So
have
if you want to start with the sun, gate 30, so I'm just thinking solar plexus for me. Whenever we have the transits and the solar plexus is defined for me, it's a very different feeling for sure. I notice a lot of things that are ready to come up. So coming back to this place of like desire and, you know, as the gates call the recognition of feelings. So maybe connecting in with like, how am I recognizing my feelings? Am I recognizing my feelings? And potentially looking at, I've noticed a lot of times that there's this need to go, this is a good emotion, a bad emotion. How am I just witnessing them rather than becoming them? So what is your connection with those feelings? And then for me, a huge part is that surrender piece, right?
Yeah.
Like,
And
how are you connecting in with that surrender? Because when I had my plan in my head of how it was going to go, and then
right.
going, okay, it's okay. And I walked through the exact same experience, but I got to walk through it in a way that felt good. It was like, okay, this happened and we're going to move forward and we're going to adjust the plan in a way that feels good for this situation. So surrendering. And again, the piece that I love about the line 30, this that it says that recognition of our humanness, right? Like, are
Yeah.
you allowing yourself, potentially asking, like, am I allowing myself to be human? Am I trying to be superhuman all the time and do it all, right? And be all these things that aren't, that are part of this desire of what you're like, this is the thing I desire. This is what I want to create. I want to do the transit talk in Disney in my princess dress, right? That was the desire. That was like, okay, let's do it. I was excited. You were excited. It was so perfect, but then it didn't work out. And you go, okay, things don't work out sometimes, and surrendering to it. But this time moving through it, there wasn't that guilt
Yeah.
attached to it.
Well, the other thing that's interesting is when you look at the body graph and you look at it, the center line, and you look at the mirrors, there's always a relationship to the channels, at least where they do relate, some of the side because of the will and that they're different, right? But in the bottom, if you look at the reflection or the opposite of this channel, 4130 is the 1858, right? And so that's all about seeing what needs to be corrected in order to bring us joy,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or in
Mm-hmm.
order to bring more joy to the collective.
Mm-hmm.
But this is about being able to hold a fantasy and a desire and a vision, but holding it loosely enough, right? That you can allow it to become what it's going to be able to become, right? Because if we hold so tightly onto one thing, right? Will, if we hold on so tightly to the idea of like, I don't want to turn to goo, I'm a caterpillar, I'm happy being a caterpillar, I'm going to stay here because I blah, 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 we'll never experience the beauty of being a butterfly, right? So knowing that there is pain in the mutation that comes from change is
Mm-hmm.
part of it. And I feel like right now, collectively, a lot of us have this vision for what we want in the world. But right now we've got all this stuff that's going on and there's all these changes and and a lot of it is really scary. And I'm not trying in any way say you just sit back and you do nothing. But while it's all happening, that's when I bring out my mantra. Everything is happening for my greatest expansion, even when it sucks in the moment, right? And that really seems like it's suitable in this energy of flow, of holding a vision, an expectation for something like this rather than this, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. And it just makes the experience of moving through it just so much more pleasant rather than fighting it as it's happening.
yeah. I had this beautiful, beautiful conversation this week, and I can't wait for people to hear the podcast when it drops Monday evening with Brandy Jordan. And she used the metaphor of human design being the raft, not the journey. And and this whole idea of, just really knowing that we have this raft, but a raft floats, she didn't, this is me expanding on her metaphor. A raft is not something you have complete 100% control of, you can steer it, but you can't really necessarily always fight all the waves and the currents, and it's pretty hard to row upstream, right, on something like a raft, but we'll go with the
Mm-hmm.
flow. Go with the flow is what you
Go with
said at
the
the
flow.
beginning, right?
And that brings up again that piece, that fear, the control. So maybe looking at, where am I trying to hold on, like you said, hold on so tight? Where am I trying so desperately to control and move it one way?
Right.
Right. Yeah. What am I desperately trying to control that it's just bringing me a lot of stress, right? That it's bringing me a lot of just
Carrie says she has to go, so I don't know if I missed that. I just thought it was 5 minutes ago. So,
Yeah.
no, it said she already left. Sorry. Okay.
Enjoying this conversation. Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you, Carrie.
Okay.
And then, for anybody who's watching on the replay, please feel free to like pop in, like when we're asking, how are you feeling about your moon? Put in what's going on with your moon.
Yeah.
And, if you want to share, like, oh my goodness, yes, I'm feeling control right now, or whatever it is, like definitely pop it in later and we can come back and respond to those things in the group. And yeah.
Yeah. So, so then talking about gate 29 a little bit too, because I think that these, they really go hand in hand, you know, where are you staying with a commitment that you really don't feel committed to is a good thing, right? What are you still saying yes to that your body doesn't say yes to anymore,
Mhm.
right? Or what are
Mhm.
you still saying no to that your body isn't saying no to anymore, right? This
And
whole
yeah. Did you feel it in this new moon, full moon, not new moon, sorry. Did you feel it? Because I did. I definitely felt it. The full moon was like, okay, you see this thing. You see this thing. I'm gonna amplify it for you. I was like,
right?
okay.
Yeah.
That's so
Yeah.
funny.
And
Yeah.
so, and where are you still saying, so sometimes we're just saying yes to something because we think we should, and we never even really said a conscious yes, right? We never even were aware. And I don't know if you've ever had those moments where you just one day go, how did I get here? Why, how did I wind up doing this? I don't remember ever choosing this, but I'm doing this. What happened here, right?
Mhm.
So those are the kinds of things we're looking at right now.
And you know what that sparked in me is the question of what is your relationship to saying no? Because this is something you asked me the other day, and I was like, oh. What is your relationship to saying no if somebody asks you something? What is the feeling?
Somebody asks you to do a transit report when you're in Disney World, and then you're just like, oh, sure. And I'm just like, are you sure?
I was like, yes, absolutely. Isn't it so
That's
funny that
right.
somehow I ended up like back in the office space, right?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
that's fine if you have that definite yes, but sometimes people are like, oh, I committed to this. I have to do it. And
Yeah, and I think that's why this is like such a beautiful relationship, like that we have where it's so easy that it's like, oh, I can't today. You can, okay. And it's very easygoing. There's not a feeling of pressure, right? Like
yeah,
this feels really beautiful. So maybe also reflecting, what are the places where I feel like I have to say yes because of the circumstances? And maybe look at like, where am I potentially making that environment for someone else, right? Where do they feel like they can't say no? And if you would like to step into saying no more and practicing, start with little things, right? Start with like the discomfort and walking into saying no for something. Like, would you like some tea? And maybe you don't want tea. Start saying no, no, thank you. I don't want tea. Like, start little steps, like starting to be able to follow that strategy and authority and share that. For me, I found I do have a hard time saying no sometimes, but creating the places where it's very safe, like you're a very safe space for me to share how I'm feeling and have that supported. So,
and
yeah.
and I would say, unpack what you feel when you say no, what that discomfort lies in. Because for me, I've only in maybe the last year realized that um, the way my design is configured, um, my emotional solar plexus and my root, which are two, I have three defined motors. I don't have a defined sacral. So I have the solar plexus and root are split, so they work together. So that emotional wave does not get anywhere normally, right? They're not connected. And what I realized, and I don't know exactly how to explain this yet, was that when I could get to where I could finally get that energy of that emotional wave out, it was like so much force that it was like I was using my willpower to do it. And I found that I was using it as a weapon. And so
Mm.
sometimes I would not say no until I could say it with either anger or sadness, where I was emotionally saying no, like a hell no. Like I couldn't say no until I could say a hell no, because that gave it this energy to be done. Does that
Mm-hmm.
make sense?
Oh, complete sense. That makes complete and utter sense to me. Yes, I feel like I can definitely, that resonates where I don't want to say no unless I can stand behind it, right? That if it starts to get pushed, it's like, no, this is the reason here, here, here. I'm ready to almost in a way fight for it, right?
Mhm.
Whereas it's really as simple as no, but why? Well, it's just a no for me, and that's enough. Like that's
Here's a
okay. You don't have to
really
prove it.
Here's a really fun thing that I ask people to do, to try and just see how they feel. Challenge yourself to, for the next week or so, every time you say no to something, to not offer an explanation,
Mm, okay, let's do this.
right? Like, do you want to do the transit report? No, thank you,
hmm
right?
hmm
Um, and then they'll be like, why not? It'll be fun. No, it's not something I want to do right now. That's all you have to say, right? Nope. No, I'm a no right now, right? And just stop. It's kind of like when we condition ourselves with the expectation, and then we expect that from other people. And just so in the inverse of that is you also then when someone else says no, don't ask them why.
hmm
May
It
I
just
ask
gets to
why?
be no.
I mean,
Mm.
there are sometimes we really need are looking for research for something that, to know if you've done something a certain way. But in most cases, it's not about us why someone's saying no. It's about them and,
Mm.
don't, right?
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Oh, I love
yeah.
that. I think for me, because I have my completely open ego. So there's a piece of like proving I need to prove, but also my solar plexus, I only have the 55, so it's undefined. And I think when I started in human design, that was a very beautiful moment for me to start to understand it was that other person's discomfort that I was feeling and amplifying. And I had a very hard time when I started going and sitting with those feelings. And I feel like I can sit with those feelings a lot more and be like, okay, and as you said, like let them move. Just let it come through and let it go through and process. Absolutely. But there's
Remind me, do you have a defined G?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
So I'm also the
Okay.
triple split. So I've got, yeah,
Okay. Okay.
the
Yeah.
root, and then my
So,
split there is the
yeah.
G, the throat.
But that combination of the undefined will and the undefined solar plexus, can really amount to people pleasing. Let me prove that I'm worthy by making everything better for you. Let me fix everything, right? And if you add in that undefined G, then that's that's the trifecta that
Mhm.
I was told Chetan Park, and I didn't hear this from him personally, but someone who did training with him said that he said he calls that the Heartbreak Hotel. You have all three of those undefined centers because you're so often just like overgiving, overdoing, and then you wind up heartbroken because you've given so much and done so much for the other person, molding to the other person, and then the other person's like, you know,
hmm
so,
And then also I have the 2750. So
yeah,
yeah,
which is a
custodianship.
part
So
of the.
looking after people. And then 19 is my son. That's been a big thing, recognizing where I really thoroughly enjoy figuring out what it is that other person
That's why
needs.
you can get the birds and the birds to tie the bows in your hair because you have the 19. You can talk to the animals,
Yeah.
right? That Snow White, I'm sure, had the 19 at least,
Oh
if not
yeah.
1949, because
Yeah.
the animals, right? Okay.
And
So,
looking after all the little men.
right?
Yeah, that's totally
Exactly.
19.
Right.
That's
So,
amazing.
yeah, so I know we talked last week about the 36 and the 6 a little bit, and you know, what else do we want to talk about today? Because I feel like we've done a pretty good job of covering that gate 30 and that gate 29 energy, and hopefully people will, take some time and think about that. And, I really think, we've got.
Ooh, so in Mars right now, we've got 53 beginnings. So that's an interesting.
Oh, I just noticed this. Chiron is in gate 51.
Ooh.
We don't usually talk about Chiron that much, but Chiron in the gate of shock is a little bit interesting, right?
Yes.
Because for those who don't know, Chiron is the wounded healer, and so Chiron, really is about accepting your own limitations as gifts, right? And healing the wounds of them.
Mhm.
Because Chiron was the what do you call it? The half man, half beast. What's the word I'm thinking of? The word that describes that. Remember,
Yeah,
you know what I'm talking about.
I
It's
know what
just
you're talking
right,
about.
right.
Yeah.
But anyway, Chiron healed himself, but Chiron didn't not was never not that. He healed himself from the wounds of feeling like it wasn't okay to be him. So I think there's a lot in the Chiron wounds about acceptance, about self-acceptance.
Mhm.
And so gate 51 being defined by Chiron could play out interestingly. I always love to look at these energies and then watch what's happening in the world and go, what's this going to be all about? And often it's not um what we think it is, you know?
Mhm.
So
So Chiron, I've heard Chiron talked about a little bit kind of like the shadow side of
mhm.
us as well, where it's the parts of us that we don't readily, bring to the light, the parts of us that need to be brought up to be healed, to be loved. And so that's interesting in the gate of shock. So it's like, what are the parts of you that potentially you aren't loving that you're like, oh no, that's not the way to be, where there could be that like good girl mentality. Um, but your Chiron, that's the part of you, that shadow side of you, where it's almost those are parts that like protect you. So, am I loving all parts of myself, even if they might be shocking into what I believe or have been told I should be or how I should be? Am I honoring all of those parts of myself? And what are those parts that need to be healed and loved and brought back within? And there's an element of shock to it. It's interesting.
And the gate 51, we always talk about the shock, but that's where competitiveness lies, right?
Mhm.
So and then there's this unhealthy competitiveness. I feel like this could be part of some of the collective shift is where is this unhealthy competitiveness not serving us, right? And we can see that in the collective for sure, like everybody wanting to be right and everybody wanting to win, where you have people like not to talk too much politics, but if you have people who are so adamant about their side being right that they want to see people fail so miserably that it's going to have a negative, rather than having something different that we didn't really see as good, maybe doing something good
Mhm.
and then us, checking the parts that are not good on it. But, just that whole energy of, I want to win so bad that I will root for the demise of anybody who's against me, right?
The other, right? That
Yeah.
whole other coming back
Yeah.
to that we are that collective, and the 30 being, a collective, being in the collective. So that's interesting. But again, not losing that balance piece of your individuality within that as
Yeah.
well.
So.
That the moon. Very
Okay,
interesting time.
so yeah, I did not bring, I just realized the book that I don't have in here is the one that tells me exactly when the next transit is. I think I wrote it down though. It's what's in 6 days, we know that. So I will announce when we'll figure out exactly when the next it should be on the 19th if things are correct. Although last time I had the dates wrong before. I'm going to guess it's probably the 18th because I had down in that transit book, it said it was the 13th and it was actually the 12th. So if it's the 12th, then it would be probably they're going to change sometime on the 18th. So we'll have
Yeah,
to,
on the 18th, it says we're going to be in 55. Let's see on the 17th.
yeah,
No,
yeah.
we're still in 30 on the 17th. So sometime.
Okay. So we'll figure that out. We'll figure out a time. We'll put it in the Facebook group and then I always send it out in when I send out the blog about the email or the email about when I release the blog, I'll send it out then, but sometimes that might be really short notice. So just if you're available and you want to join us, we'd love to have people join the conversation. And I don't know, do you have anything else you want to add, Jess?
No, just yeah, I love doing this. This is so much fun. And if anybody has suggestions, feel free to, share them with us or something that might help you. If we put a post about what the questions we discuss now for people to come back and reflect on, maybe I'll just pop those in the group,
Yeah, that'd be great.
different ways we can adapt and like work with this. But yeah. That's pretty
Yeah,
much
and there are also questions in the Transit Talk post that's already in there too. So you can go and look at those. So awesome.
it.
Okay. Peace out, everybody.
Bye.